Here's a question that ought to keep you up at night if you just leased one of these fancy new EVs sitting in driveways all across the country. What happens to that car in 15 years, when the company that built its brain decides it's done supporting it? I've been wrenching on cars and writing about them for longer than some of these Silicon Valley outfits have even existed, and let me tell you, this one's got me worried in a way a bad head gasket or a leaking transmission never did. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and drop a like if this kind of stuff gets your gears turning, because today we're digging into something that could quietly decide whether your next car is a keeper for 20 years, or a 5-year money pit with a screen bolted to the dash. Tesla, Rivian, Lucid, and a whole wave of rising Chinese automakers all built their identity around one idea. And it's not horsepower or leather seats. It's software. The car isn't just steel and rubber anymore. It's a computer you happen to drive to work. Tesla in particular has a lead in software and in data that nobody else in this business can touch right now. And that's not me being dramatic, that's coming straight from people inside the industry. That lead means they can push a fix to your car while it sits parked in your driveway overnight, or hand you a brand new feature that makes a 3-year-old vehicle feel like it just rolled off the assembly line. People who build these things are calling it one of the biggest turning points in the history of the automotive industry, the kind of shift that's going to rewrite what brand loyalty even means going forward, not just here at home but everywhere these cars get sold. Here's the catch though, and this is where it gets interesting. These vehicles are genuinely complicated under the skin. Fixing them takes different tools, different training, and access to data that a lot of independent shops out there just don't have and probably never will. And there's a real worry brewing among the folks who know this technology best, that these software-driven cars might age less like a fine classic sitting under a car cover in somebody's garage, and a whole lot more like your old smartphone gathering dust in a kitchen drawer. We're already watching hardware struggle to keep pace with the software being thrown at it year after year. And honestly, nobody in this industry can tell you with a straight face exactly how many good years these things have left in them. So what actually makes a car software defined in the first place? It's simple when you break it down. It's a vehicle that doesn't freeze in time the moment it leaves the dealership lot. It keeps getting better through updates that come straight through the internet. No trip to the shop required, no appointment, nothing. Automakers have been stuffing little computers into cars for decades now. Sure, that part isn't new. But those old systems were small, dumb, and scattered all over the vehicle. One chip running the radio, another running the windows, another running who knows what. What Tesla and Rivian did differently was consolidate all that hardware into one central brain and tie it together through software that can be rewritten remotely, from thousands of miles away, while the car just sits there. That opens the door to some pretty wild stuff. When Consumer Reports refused to recommend the Model 3 because it flunked their braking tests, Tesla didn't recall a single part off that car. They didn't call owners in for a service appointment. They pushed a software update, tightened up the braking behavior, and won that recommendation back without a single wrench touching the vehicle. Rivian's done similar things on their trucks, rolling out new drive modes, smoothing out ride quality, even adding an AI assistant to vehicles that were already sitting in customer driveways for months. As one industry exec put it, they're able to update the entire brain of the car, not just patch a bug here and there. Even the old guard automakers, the ones who've been building cars in Detroit and beyond for 100 years, are starting to follow this playbook now. You pull into your driveway, the software updates on its own overnight, and folks are going to see that more and more, relying less and less on the regular routine of dragging the car to a mechanic for every little thing. But that brain needs upkeep, and here's where things start to get uncomfortable if you really think it through. Somebody has to pay to keep those servers running, to keep engineers writing and testing code, year after year, for every single model the company has ever sold. And there's a real legitimate question about how long any car company can justify footing that bill for a vehicle that's 10 or 15 years old and long since paid off. Then you've got the hardware problem, and this is the part one want you to really pay attention to, because it's the one that hits closest to home. The average car on American roads right now is pushing 13 years old, an all-time record for this country, and plenty of vehicles run a lot longer than that, especially the ones folks take care of. Now compare that to a smartphone, which most people replace every 2 or 3 years without thinking twice about it. You start to see the mismatch right away. Some features simply won't be able to run because the rest of the hardware in the car can't keep up with what the software wants to do, and upgrading every single component across an aging fleet of millions of vehicles just isn't realistic from a business standpoint, no matter how much a company might want to. Tesla is already living through this exact scenario, and it's a cautionary tale worth remembering. Back in 2016, the company claimed every single car rolling off the line had the hardware needed for full self-driving, right out of the gate. Musk doubled down again in 2019, saying the Hardware 3 computer on board would get the job done. Fast forward to 2026, and Tesla itself had to admit that Hardware 3 simply does not have what it takes to achieve unsupervised full self-driving. Owners who qualify are now being offered either a hardware upgrade or a discounted trade-in, and if you ask me, that tells you everything you need to know about how that promise actually played out for the folks who bought in early, trusting the company at its word. Automakers know this kind of thing is coming down the road for everybody, so some of them are trying to build in a plan ahead of time. Rivian, for instance, commits to rolling out new features for somewhere between 7 and 10 years. And that number isn't random. It's based on how long the average American actually keeps a car before trading it in or passing it along. After that window closes, the company says the vehicle stays fully functional and fully safe. They'll still push out security patches whenever necessary. It just stops getting new bells and whistles after that point. And you know, for a lot of owners out there, that's plenty. Not getting the latest feature drop isn't exactly the end of the world. One engineer working in this space put it about as well as anybody could. The classic sitting in his own garage is 36 years old, never had a single software update in its entire life because it was never built to receive one, and it still runs great to this day. Number 1. The maintenance question doesn't disappear just because the updates stop. Even a car that never gets touched by software again still needs a wrench turned on it eventually. Brakes wear down, fluids need changing, belts crack. The part of owning a car hasn't changed one bit no matter how smart the computer under the hood gets. And this is exactly where things get interesting for independent shops around the country. Rivian skipped the traditional dealership model entirely, running their own service centers instead, a mobile repair fleet that comes to you, and a network of certified third-party shops to fill in the gaps. Number 2, that ties directly into the right to repair movement, which has already reshaped how people think about fixing their own electronics and even their own farm equipment, and now it's coming for cars in a big way. The core idea is about as American as it gets. You should be able to fix what you own, or at the very least choose who fixes it for you, instead of being locked into one dealership with a monopoly on your wallet. Rivian says an upcoming update will actually unlock the service menu built right into the vehicle itself, letting owners handle more of their own diagnostics and basic repairs, with plans down the road to let the onboard AI assistant walk you through some of those fixes step by step, right from the touchscreen. Number 3, and this might be the biggest open question of all, what happens when these cars become genuine classics decades from now? Are we going to see a new breed of tech-savvy mechanics keeping old electric trucks and sedans running the same way old-timers keep a Duesenberg from the 1930s alive and rolling at car shows today? The real fix, according to folks who've thought hard about this problem, would be manufacturers releasing the software once official support officially ends, so independent developers and shops can keep updating it on their own terms. Basically an AutoZone for code, instead of an AutoZone for parts. It's not an unreasonable ask, and honestly it would go a long way toward easing the concerns a lot of owners already have simmering in the back of their minds. Here's the thing though, and it's worth sitting with for a second. There's genuine reason for cautious optimism here, more than there used to be even a couple years back. There are Toyota pickups out there right now that have crossed 1 million miles on nothing but old-fashioned mechanical stubbornness, no software updates, no over-the-air anything, just steel, rubber, and regular oil changes. Software-defined vehicles might outperform those old analog trucks in nearly every category you can measure on a spec sheet: quicker, quieter, smarter, safer in a lot of ways. But whether they can match that same kind of raw, decade after decade staying power is still a question nobody on Earth has fully answered yet, and won't for a good while longer. At the end of the day, folks, these cars can do things my generation never dreamed possible sitting around a garage back in the day. But that convenience comes with an expiration date that nobody at the dealership is exactly rushing to tell you about when you're signing the paperwork. And if there's one thing that gets car people fired up more than just about anything else, it's the idea that a company sitting in an office somewhere can quietly decide when your car stops improving, or worse, when it stops being fully supported altogether. So I want to know where you folks stand on this one. Would you still buy a software-defined vehicle, knowing the manufacturer could walk away from meaningful updates in under a decade? Have you already run into this with a car you own right now? Drop your answer down in the comments. I read every single one. And if you're trying to avoid a costly mistake on your next purchase, go ahead and check out the video popping up on your screen right now. I guarantee it'll help you make a smarter call before you sign anything.